Hi everyone. So welcome back to this channel, and I've actually been off this channel for almost a year, in fact more than a year. And the primary reason for that was that I wanted to focus on my first book, and my first book was published earlier this year in the month of January, and you can find the link to purchase that book from Amazon or Flipkart. You can find that link in the description below. So that's the first thing that I would request all of you in this video to please read the book and share your feedback as much as possible. I'd love to hear the feedback from your side. In fact, so far in the last 6 months or so, my book has been doing really well, and I'm looking forward to more feedback. Now, coming back to my efforts or my adventures in YouTube. Initially, when I started the channel, it was mainly focused on UPSC preparation. But then, as time evolved, as time passed, I realized that I should not keep my endeavors restricted to just UPSC exam. It should not just be one exam that I should restrict myself to, because the situation that we have at present is that India has a vast demographic dividend. The working age population of India is like, it's going to boom in the coming years, and we are going to have a peak in the next 2 decades or so. So, keeping that in mind, I felt that I should be talking about, or I should be making certain contributions to the youth of India in general, and not just for a specific community of aspirants. Even though I'll keep making UPSC relevant videos from time to time, but at the same time, I wanted to diversify the reach of this channel to include a number of other aspects. So, for example, I would like to start a section on making the best out of your college life. So in that section, I'll be coming up with videos in which I'll be talking more about how to be more productive in your college and how to make the most out of your undergrad days. It's not actually it's not just about scoring more marks or grades or percentage or something like that, but in general, how to become a more evolved human being during your college days. So today's video is going to be the first in that series, and in today's video I am going to talk to you about how to make the best out of your college life. So in this video I am going to talk to you about 5 things which can make you future ready while you are still in college. In short, this is going to be a video about 5 most important things which you should be careful about when you are going through your undergraduate days. And I have consciously tried to steer clear of lecturing on exams and which exams to take, or which career stream to choose, because these are, you'll find hundreds and thousands of videos on these topics. So I've tried to focus more on the intangible aspects of your college days. Intangible in the sense that you cannot really quantify those aspects. So the first thing that you need to be very clear about when you are in college is that you need to build your foundational skills. Foundational skills which are going to make you valuable in the job market. Now, what are these foundational skills? For example, if you can do basic arithmetic, if you know basic English, if you have basic comprehension skills, these are all foundational skills. And these are foundational in the sense that any company, any organization, anywhere, any NGO that wants to employ you, that particular organization will definitely look for these qualities in you. So, what I find in our country or in our education system at present is that it's a very compartmentalized system. Compartmentalized in the sense that if someone is pursuing commerce, that person will say ki, I don't really read that much, I don't know that much of art subjects. So if somebody is pursuing commerce, he will say ki, mere ko history nahi aata. On the flip side, if somebody is pursuing engineering or science, that person is likely to say ki, I don't like I don't like reading about finance. So these are compartments in which we have artificially divided our education system, and that is a very, very sad thing. But this is something going forward, this is going to become very important, where employers are going to look for basic foundational skills in the candidates that they are going to recruit. So any company where you go to, whether it doesn't matter whether you have a BA degree or you have a BCom degree or you have an engineering degree, whatever it is, they are going to look for certain standard qualities, whether you can solve basic mathematics, whether you can solve, whether you can answer questions based on some comprehension, whether you can answer questions based upon some logical reasoning. So because of this, you will see that most of the entrance tests which are there, you can cover as many as they want, government tests, okay, even the private, the companies which come to college placement ke liye, they all look for these qualities. And in any kind of standardized test that you have, that you can appear for these days, you will definitely have these sections. One will be on quant, one will be on your English understanding, one will be on your logical reasoning, one will be on your general understanding of current affairs. So these are very, very standardized sections. And in college, the very first thing that you should do is to give yourself reasonable strength in all these foundational qualities that will make your future secure to a certain extent. The second thing that you should start figuring out when you are in college is kind of algorithm that actually runs your life. When we are in school, we have the protective custody of our parents. We are always surrounded by people who will take care of us. But in college, we actually start tasting that freedom for the first time. And this is actually the ideal time when you should start figuring out certain things about your life, figuring out certain basic algorithms about your life. Algorithm in the sense that, when event A occurs, that leads to triggering of certain emotions in your mind. So, for example, a very basic example: if India loses a match, I would get very angry. So, this is a very basic algorithm in my, in my life. So, if I were aware of this algorithm, then, let's say I have an exam next day, and I have a cricket match today in which India is playing. So, I may be very excited about the match, but I should know that in the algorithm of my life, there is a very likely chance that if India loses the match, that is going to simply spoil my mood and I won't be able to prepare for the exam tomorrow. So that understanding will help you control your emotions to serve your own objectives. So it is very important that you yourself control your emotions, your feelings, your mental state. Because if you do not understand this algorithm, these algorithms of life at a very young age, if you don't understand them, you will always be used by other people. Okay, so if somebody who is emotionally more intelligent than you, who is emotionally more competent than you, that person is very easily going to use you, and that is mainly because you do not have control on your own emotions. So, for example, if somebody wants to spoil your impression in front of others, that person is simply going to tug at your weak points, and you should try to figure out basic aspects of your life right when you are in college, because that will make you understand a lot of things which give you strength, and things which actually make you weak. And it's always a good thing to be fully aware of your strengths and weaknesses. And this is actually what strengths and weaknesses are. In job interviews, in essays that we write a lot of things of when asked about our weaknesses. We write that we are very punctual and all these things. We try to sound our strengths as our weaknesses. It's a very common strategy, but in reality, being aware of your weaknesses is very important, because otherwise you will be you'll be driven by other people. The third thing that you should absolutely know for sure is that you cannot control your life 1 or 2 years, more than 1 or 2 years at a time. You can plan. Yes, you can plan ahead of time. You can plan your finances for, let's say, 20 years at a time with reasonable certainty. Okay, so if you put your money in a fixed deposit right now, and the bank says that the bank will give you 5% interest, then you can very well plan that 20 years down the line you will have this much amount of money, given the fact that the bank exists in 20 years time. So that is the reasonable certainty that you have. But in life and in career, you should not plan too far ahead. it is always advisable to plan just 1 or 2 years at a time and not more than that. The biggest mistake that most people make at a very young age is that, when they are 20, 25, they start taking very long term decisions, which 5 years down the line makes them feel very stuck. So for example, you are in college and you get into a job, and the moment you get into a job, you decide to buy a car, and you buy a car, you avail a bank loan, and then you simply have to take care of that loan for the next 5, 6, 7 years. Maybe 2 years down the line, you just feel bored with that car. Okay, that car doesn't have any kind of utility for you, simply because you may have moved to some other city. You may not really need it at your present place of posting, but you still have to pay back that bank loan, and it's a fixed amount that you have to pay back. So that is a kind of decision which you should, these are kind of decisions which you should try and avoid, because they don't let you control your life. Okay? So always try to plan life 1 year or 2 years at a time. So for example, if you are appearing for an exam, don't plan that you are going to appear for it 5 years down the line. Yes, it's good to have a kind of goal, that maybe this is my goal, this is why I want to do, maybe 5 years, 6 years, 7 years down the line. But the immediate planning should not be more than 1 or 2 years at a time. It should not be. So I find it really, really problematic when some people say, ki, I'll appear for UPSC in 2027. That's a really hilarious thing, because it's 2022 right now and you're planning for 5 years at a time. So you cannot really prepare for an exam for 5 years. Either you do something else, get into it. Yes, keep UPSC as a larger goal, keep that at the back of your mind, but that immediate preparation cannot be more than 1 or 2 years at a time. It's simply impractical. The next thing is about not restricting yourself into narrow domains. When you have the opportunity to spread your wings wide open. So, in college, one of the mistakes that people generally commit is that they do not focus on the larger picture. Now, a larger picture can mean a lot of things. Okay? What generally happens is, if you are in engineering, then there is a tendency to say ki, everything else is nonsense. Simply because engineering is in fashion these days, so everything else is nonsense, and I'll stick to engineering. This is how I'll get the job. This is how how I will spend the rest of my life, and you plan like that. But 5 years down the line, you feel like you could have done a lot many different things at that point of time, which could have let you understand many other aspects of your life. So for example, if you are pursuing, let's say, some degree, some subject, let's say normal arts degree in, say, a subject like history, and you decide that you are just going to stick to history because everything else is nonsense. So even if some opportunity comes, let's say there is an opportunity to intern at a particular company, or some particular there is some opportunity for research somewhere, and you pass it up simply because it is concerned with subjects other than history. It includes history, but there are other subjects along with it, and you pass that opportunity. Now, 5 years down the line, you actually may be doing something which may not be entirely connected with what you are, with what your education is. This is very likely, and in the present generation, people graduate in something, then they get into post graduation in something else, and then they work in a completely different field. This is very much possible, and in the next 10 or 15 years, we might be actually seeing people actually getting into 2 or 3 careers in a lifetime. This is a very, very practical and a very possible thing in our lifetime itself. So to be aware of this reality and to actually make use of it, it's very important that when you are in college, you should not simply get into a very narrow mindset that this is my field, this is what I've chosen, so I'll just stick to this, and I'll shut myself out from everything else. Keep your mind open, keep your avenues open. So if you are an engineering student, you should have some understanding of what accounting is, or what world history is. That kind of makes you a well-rounded individual and exposes you to what all fields there can be, what all areas of work there can be for you in the future. Because believe me, there are so many people who feel stuck at the age of 40, 45, 50. They don't know what to do, simply because they had not explored enough in their 20s. This is a very big problem, and that is one of the reasons why we have a term called midlife crisis. So to avoid that thing, you should explore as much as possible when you are in college, and not restrict yourself very narrowly to the domain that you are in. So the last thing that I wanted to mention is that you should keep skilling yourself continuously. You should upskill yourself at every possible opportunity. In college is perhaps the best time when you can take care of your own skills. It's completely under your control, because once you are out of college, once you're in the job market, you are working somewhere, doing something, and that at that point upskilling becomes a bit difficult, because you don't have full control over your time. Your time is controlled to a certain extent by your employer, who is paying you for certain specific tasks. So you cannot say I'll not go to office and I'll just learn coding. You cannot do that, because the employer will stop paying you. Simple. That's a very simple equation. So in college, when you still have that time, when you still have those resources, because maybe your parents are taking care of you, you should take as much skill enhancement programs as possible. Jitna skill आप enhance करोगे in college, it will bring you dividends in the future. So for example, if you are let's say you are studying medicine. ठीक है, आप medicine, you are in medicine, or maybe you are in engineering. It should not stop you from taking a small course on, let's say, religious scriptures of the world. Okay, these courses are nowadays available for free in many websites. Okay, you have websites like edX, you have Coursera, you have Udemy. There are many such websites where you should actually be looking out for such skill enhancement programs. So for example, if you are maybe you are studying mechanical engineering, but that does not mean that you should not have any idea about what data analysis is. ठीक है, मैकेनिकल इंजीनियरिंग में we study about machines, automobiles and all these things, but that does not necessarily mean that you should simply not hear anything about data analysis. So maybe you can take a course on data analysis, because bringing that kind of cross disciplinary understanding or cross disciplinary skills into your own resume, that will give you a real boost 10 years down the line. And this is what people actually miss when they're in college. And most people are in the mad race for like placement jobs, which job is paying the most, uske liye kya karna, and all those things. But instead of simply looking for one particular job which is paying astronomical amounts, you should actually open yourself up to a number of other opportunities. Because mostly what happens is, when you get out of college, you look for a job, maybe you get a job, but 5 years down the line, you are going to think differently. It definitely it happens. You are not going to think the same way you are thinking now. So to accommodate for that change in mentality, that change in thinking process, you should definitely keep your skill levels diversified when you still have the time. So these are the 5 main points with which I wanted to start this this new version of the channel. And I'll be coming up with more videos on college life, and there will be a new section on book reviews as well. So I'll be reviewing books, and I'll be summarizing those books. Mostly there will be books which are connected to our lives, society, nation in some way or the other, so that understanding the context of those books, that can help you in your in your own life. So with that, I would like to call it a day, and I would request all of you to please subscribe to the channel, and please read my book. As I said earlier, the link is given in the description below, and please share your feedback. I would love to hear from you. So till the next video, please take care.